Welcome to the Journey Podcast, where we share some of the most inspiring stories on the planet, life lessons, and tools that will help you navigate through your own personal journey. On this episode, you will find a segment from our weekly life coaching platform, the Dream Nation Breakfast Club. Feel free to tune in live on Zoom every Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern via dnbreakfastclub.com. I am your host, Josh Valentine. I want to talk a little bit about archetypes. Archetypes are very important in life. Whether you realize it or not, we are all at any point in time in our lives bouncing in and out of different archetypes. There are four predominant archetypes. The four archetypes have been embedded in our psyche throughout humanity. We all have at any point in time have been one of four of these archetypes. Some of us bounce in and out of archetypes throughout the course of the day. Some of us pretty much spend the majority of our lives as one specific archetype. I'm going to go over these very briefly. Number one is the sovereign. That's the king or queen that dwells within you. That is your inner royalty. That is the part of you that takes charge. That is the leader in you. That is the responsible person within you. That is the person that manages the kingdom, your empire, whatever it is. Think about the roles in your life that embody the sovereign, the king or the queen. It might be your role as the CEO of your company. It might be you being a dad and a husband and the head of your household. It might be you leading that women's ministry at your church. We all have that inner sovereign within us. The second archetype is the magician. The magician is that creative, intuitive part of you, that deeply spiritual part of you. We all have inner creativity within us. Some people love to create a lot more, and you may resonate with the magician archetype a lot more than the others because you're deeply creative and intuitive. Being here on the Breakfast Club is me expressing my magician archetype because a lot of the information that I'm giving is information that I've processed, like it's deep wisdom that I'm sharing. Think of the magician as someone who's performing in a sense. Whenever you are exuding or expressing your gifts or your talents, that's also an extension of the magician archetype. The third archetype is the warrior. We all have that inner warrior. The best example of a warrior for me, I love to think of the entrepreneur or the hustler in you, that person inside of you that is willing to get scrappy, that fighter inside of you. We all have that part of us. I also love to think of the warrior as the archetype that you play when you're in the gym, when you're exercising, when you go beast mode in the gym. It's very valuable to tap into that inner warrior when you need to bring out that part of your nature that is more on the aggressive side, that's a fighter. Sometimes when we need change in our lives, we need to tap into that warrior. And we all have that in our nature. Think about it. Throughout humanity, think of how many people have played one of these four archetypes. This has been a repetitive cycle, again, throughout the course of humanity. It's embedded in our very genetics. The last archetype is the archetype of the lover. That is that romantic part of you. That is that part of you that is just loving and nurturing and just very compassionate. That is also an archetype that you may have to switch in and out of depending on what you have going on in your life. The issue most people fall into is when they're going about life, they tend to wear the hat of one archetype that's not suitable for a specific situation. For example, you may be in get to the bag mode, meaning You may be in a situation where you're being very aggressive and you're fighting to improve your finances. You are out there going beast mode, getting after it. And then you come home and now it's time to be a spouse. But what happens? We tend to bring that warrior energy into our love life. And of course, there's going to be conflict there. You have to know how to properly adjust from archetype to archetype. What if you bring the warrior to your parenthood? It's probably not going to be the best situation. Or what if you have to really go into beast mode and run your company and take full responsibility, but you're in lover mode? It's going to affect your ability to produce. It's not time for lover mode. It's time to take responsibility. It's time to lead. And sometimes when you're in that mode, it's very difficult to be a student and to be inquisitive or to be deeply spiritual and be the magician. You want to always understand which archetypes are going to be applicable to whatever circumstances you are in. Some of you right now, for example, you're listening in, you're tuning into the Breakfast Club. What archetype would you be if you're tuning into the Breakfast Club and you are learning and you're processing this information? You're probably going to be more of the magician. But then when you go to work, what archetype are you now at work? It can be the warrior. Maybe it's the sovereign. Maybe if you're managing your family, for example, you may be managing your family or your company or your ministry or whatever it is that you're a part of community wise as the sovereign. So again, it's important to distinguish and identify which archetypes are most useful. When you go on your date, you're probably not going to want to bring the sovereign, right? You want to be the lover, properly transitioning from moment to moment. This is why I'm so adamant about setting your intentions and the 5 to thrive.
If you love this podcast episode, you are absolutely going to love my weekly Breakfast Club sessions where I offer complimentary life coaching and mentorship. I do this live, so you guys can follow me on Facebook. I go live every single Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I have people tune in from all around the world. I've been doing this for years, and you can get all kinds of value from your personal life to entrepreneurship skills and leadership and mindset and so many other things. I look forward to seeing you every single week on the Breakfast Club, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. See you there.
The 5 to thrive, just so that you all know, I'm going to go through it briefly, are 5 questions you ask yourself from moment to moment. And this is going to help you properly transition from archetype to archetype. Number 1, what do I want? What do I want? So even you jumping on the Breakfast Club, you may want to just learn. That's your objective here on the Breakfast Club. When you go to work, it may be to deliver really great work at work or to be productive at work. The second question is your why. Why are you doing what it is that you're doing? It's important to know the why. After you know the why, you ask yourself, how do I want to feel? This is super, super important to identify because oftentimes we don't realize that everything that we do is a means to an end emotion we want to experience. Everything you do in this lifetime is to feel a certain way. The fourth question is, who do I want to be? The fourth question I actually sometimes divide it in two, because you can think about who you want to be, but you can also think about who you don't want to be. Isn't it true that sometimes there are parts of our nature that comes out that we don't really want to be? Like there are aspects of ourselves, like you may be a mean person sometimes, like we all are guilty of it. You may be a little on the rude side. You may be a little bit on the angry side, maybe hangry because you're a little bit hungry and angry at the same time. And if that's the case for you, ask yourself, who do I want to be and who do I not want to be? And then the fifth question is, how can I make this all a reality? If you ask yourself that before going into every single scenario in your life. It can be a meeting at work. It can be a date night. It can be you participating in some nonprofit activity. And when you're in that space and you genuinely ask yourself in advance, you'll discover that experience is going to be a lot better. Why is that? Because you set your intention. When you ask yourself also, who do I want to be? Think of the archetype you want to be. Do you want to be the warrior? Do you want to be the sovereign? Do you want to be the lover? Or do you want to be the magician? Ask yourself, who do I want to be? And maybe if you choose the archetype of the sovereign, you may discover that I want to be more resourceful. I want to be more confident. Because what does it truly mean to be a queen? What does it mean to be a king or a queen? What are some of the characteristics of it? Confidence, 100%. Certainty is another one that I think of. We have assurance, absolutely. Resourcefulness is another one. Courageous, presence, that's a really good one. These are all different characteristics of the sovereign. When you think of now the characteristics of a magician, you may think of someone who's creative, someone who's intuitive, someone who is a thinker. That's a good one. You have all kinds of characteristics for the magician. You may be someone who likes to entertain and to perform. I like that. The solver, absolutely. Now, when you think of the archetype of the warrior, what are some characteristics of a warrior? Someone who is a fighter, someone who's courageous, someone who is relentless, someone who is, even warriors sometimes have to be resourceful. But these are all different characteristics. And finally, the characteristics of a lover, someone who is compassionate, maybe a little bit on the patient side. When you think of a really good lover, what makes a really good lover? If you could think of the very best lover, what if you could make your lover how you want them to be? What are some of the characteristics you would want from that lover? I most certainly would want someone who's patient, because let's be honest, sometimes we have our ways and we may get upset or we may be impatient ourselves, and you can't fight impatience with impatience. You understand? So it does help to have one person who is patient, someone who's attentive to my needs. Absolutely. Someone who is a communicator, someone who's gentle, selfless. I love these. These are really good. You have listener, a person of peace, beautiful, loyal. Absolutely. So these are all really great characteristics of the lover. Now, let me ask you this. For those of you who really want to experience that love, are you reciprocating that to your lover? Are you also exuding someone who is patient, someone who is selfless, someone who is compassionate, someone who is affectionate? You have to give what you want to receive. The archetypes, again, are really good for helping people set their intention, helping people exude a certain character. And once again, to recap the 5 to thrive, the 5 questions are: what do I want? Why do I want it? How do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? And how can I make this all a reality? That is the 5 to thrive. Thanks again for tuning into this episode. It would mean the world to me if you can follow, subscribe, share, or even leave a review. I look forward to putting out more content, and we'll see you on another episode.